So here's the one that we haven't talked about much, and it's going to step on all kinds of toes, politically and otherwise. We're talking about what you do when the flood's coming and when it gets here. The question I have for y'all as a city and county, is there appropriate higher ground space given the time to evacuate people that are sitting in the 500 floodplain? Is there area you can get people to in this area if you have time to get them there?
Yes. Yes.
Yes. So here's what all the data and monitoring is good, but you know what that's doing? It's squeezing it down to the very last second before we disrupt somebody's world. And that's a convenience or an inconvenience I'm willing to go to now. So going forward, under the Health and Human Services Codes, I believe it is, safety codes, that's where a lot of the camps are regulated. And what I've learned to find out is there's all kinds of reasons this shouldn't have happened at some level, but we get waivers. They ask for a waiver and they get a waiver. So guess what? An action plan at a flood warning level. Number 2, not the last one in line where it's already too late. But number 2, in a flood-prone area, when you're responsible for the lives of people that paid to be there, has to be evacuate to higher ground. Shelter in higher ground. And we would have had 3 hours if that had been a coordinated place to go and trained and taught. They could have been on higher ground. But what we don't want to do as a community is disrupt the community on a flood warning. Y'all don't get that luxury anymore if you're living on the river. So those are some things that I'm chewing through here, because if we can talk all day about data reporting, our science is pretty good, but we're never going to be able to predict exactly where Mother Nature's going to drop one of those. So all of these folks out here that intentionally I didn't want them here today, but everything in your world's going to change a little bit, because in the next flood warning, if you're in a 500 plane, and most of those places were, there's the 100 and the 5. If you're in the 100, but if you're that close to the river, you're going to higher ground at flood warning level. That's the only way with some certainty you can predict no matter what the river does. And it would have worked in this one had those people went to higher places. The people that got to higher ground, some of the kids in Mystic actually got to a higher ground on their own accord. That's what we got to start talking about, and stop wobbling around some of these things that we let people do because it's an inconvenience. Judge?
That's not difficult to do.
Do what?
That's not difficult to do.
Well,
to adopt a policy on the NWS when they have the flood warning?
It's an action plan at this level.
Well, let me just say this. It's not a problem as for emergency management to put out shelter on higher ground, and you know, we can do that. On flood warnings, when it says 1 to 3 inches, I'm telling you, some of those people won't move.
I'll tell you this, if I'm responsible, if it's my camp and I've charged for that bed, and those kids have been entrusted with my under me, it's not an option. Now, if I'm a private, pulled up, put up a tent and sit on the river, so be it. If I'm in the RV camp and I go to RVs and say it's time to shelter a higher place, and one of them says you ain't getting me out of here, check the box, you talk to him, and when he's found down the road, you can go. But we've got a way to stop this. And what you just said is a truth, but sad. It's not that hard to do.
No, it's not. And it's just like Chief Kidd said, we can do better.
Well,
we can do better on this.
I would argue, and I haven't been through all the waiver processes, but I would tell you a lot of this stuff was probably wavered off over the years because it was an inconvenience. And that's got to stop. One final question. I think if I heard it correct, there was not a required actual training scheduled at least once a year. I know there was tabletops. Tell me if I'm wrong, Mr. Thomas. Y'all don't actually Y'all do an actual test once a year, or you just do tabletops and exercises?
William Thomas, Kerr County. We do tabletops and exercises.
You actually do a physical, all hands on deck with city and with county?
We have not done a full-scale evacuation exercise, no, sir.
So going forward, Senate Bill 6 had some requirements. It ended up in a report. I don't know how you guys can be good at what you do if you've never practiced what you're supposed to.
I agree.
And I think coordinated, not 2 units. You need 1 leader, which reminds me, you actually need 2, or maybe 3 in this case, but 2 of your leaders weren't available. So a whole lot of world changing in this stuff for you and everybody that's in your current position. But we really just got to be smarter and willing to pull the trigger. I'm going to give you, I think this committee will hopefully approve it. It's not miss me. At flood warning, if you live on this river, you're going to be moved to higher ground. It just makes sense to me. So with that, Mr. Chair, I think I did have one sneak in. Actually, I had 2. Did you have any more?
No, I think the House is going to be
Senator
quiet for a
Swartner.
minute.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just on follow-up of your question, Judge Kelly, you're indicating in your testimony that there was not much in the way of an alert of the severity of the flooding. I understand, at least from prior testimony in Austin, that the National Weather Service issued not only a flash flood warning on top of the flash flood watch, but subsequently had an actual flash flood emergency
Yes, sir.
sent out.
Yes,
and
sir.
of course, you being the EDC or EMC or EMD, and then of course the EMC,
Right.
those are automatically sent by text and by email to the address of record that you supply to the state of Texas State Operations Center. But you also indicated that you woke up or were awoken from texts or calls from Kidd, Letha, and Rice. Did those texts indicate the flash flood emergency occurring, and at what time?
I don't know if that technical information was in there, but we definitely knew we were in trouble.
One more time, sir.
I don't know what the exact
Time frame?
what was exactly said, but what the import was that we had a major problem in Kerr County, and I needed to address it.
On those texts?
Yes.
That when you looked at them, when you woke up, at what time again?
5-ish.
5-ish. And what did you do at that time?
I got my dogs and packed up and called the emergency management coordinator. We went over protocols and drove back to town.
You drove back here. Did you
Drove
come to the
straight to-
EOC that day of July 4th?
After I signed the declaration, disaster declaration at the sheriff's office, we went over to the EOC.
On the July 4th?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And were you at the press conference that night with the governor?
Yes.
You were at the press conference the night of July 4th with the governor of Texas here?
I'm not sure.
And again, were you in
The days bleed together. I have been in the press conferences with the governor. You're asking me which day.
This would be the day of the flood. Were you in the press conference with the governor?
I do not know. I can find out.
I'm going to ask you this one more time. Were you actually in the Emergency Operations Center the day of July 4th at all?
Yes, sir.
You were.
Yes, sir. And what happened was, after we finished up the briefings and everything, I had still not seen my wife. And so I went to West Kerr County to make sure she was okay. And then I came back for the press conference with the governor, I believe. That can be verified. But I think I was back for that.
Okay.
Senator Campbell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Probably don't need an answer to this, but a comment. Dr. Richter. So residents of Kerr County are paying taxes for the Upper Guadalupe River Authority to be in the business of collecting data. You said we're in the business of collecting data. Is that right?
That's correct.
All right, that's correct was his answer. You might pull that mic up, sir.
Yes, sir.
And the Upper Guadalupe River Authority has been in established since 1939. There have been some floods. That's 86 years. And the board, you representing the board, are just now deciding and acting on the need to have gauges?
Those gauges were put in 36 years ago, I believe.
Okay, so we have no alarms, though. It's just gauges to collect information for the National Weather Service?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so I would say that you should be in the business of protecting people from the things that are going on in the river. I don't see how the Upper Guadalupe River Authority helped in any way in this flood. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Gocourse.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To all of you, we're hearing you, and I know that it was like Senator Flores, you said, the monster in the middle of the night, a historic flood, and we're going to get better from all of this. I drove down with Senators Blanco and Menendez this morning to Hunt and Ingram, and we saw the devastation. We saw some of the debris in the top of the trees, those huge cypress. This was something of a magnitude that, as Sheriff, you generationally, having been here, we've never seen before. So specifically, I want to ask a couple of questions. Mr. Rice, you had some recommendations. I think that Representative Moody asked you if we could get those in writing. I was writing as quickly as I can, but my shorthand's not great. So can you get those to us?
Dalton Rice, City Manager. Yes, ma'am, we will have all that information to y'all.
Thank you. And Sheriff, your timeline is very important because we're comparing those to what we heard in Austin. So if you could get that to us as well.
Absolutely.
I want to go to your question, your comments in your writing. You said the water came too fast, and that leads me to the importance of educating our seasonal visitors and the youth camp operators about the importance of flash flood monitoring and knowing the evacuation plans. I'm going to ask a question on the evacuation plans. Did y'all know that the camps had those, or the RV parks had those? Do those exist, and did anyone know that they existed?
I'm going to refer that to our EMC who works with them on a regular basis with the camps, our emergency management coordinator.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. William Thomas, Kerr County. We have 19 camps, summer camps here in Kerr County. I think I have emergency management plans for, they've been submitted by the camps, probably 6 of the camps.
Let me clarify that for myself. 6 of 19 camps had emergency plans that you had access to.
That have been submitted to me, yes, ma'am.
I'm going to ask this as a question, whether it is through statute, state statute, that we give you the ability. Do you think that every camp, especially those in a 100-year floodplain or a 500-year floodplain, should have evacuation plans, including those that are to shelter in place and get to higher ground? Yes, or, and I mean, I'm a long 6th-generation Texan. I've come to your beautiful county many times. It's been a while since I've driven out to Hunt. We see the low water crossing. With all of your timelines and comparing them, it was moved to higher ground. Should we have those plans? Should they know better? And should we require that?
Yes, ma'am. I believe if we're going to make school safety rules and regulations for the schools to have safety plans, I think we need to do it for camps as well.
Obviously, one camp suffered more than others, and we were able to get, there was something that went very wrong, and then there was an area that they were able to evacuate. And I know that there are a lot of parents with lots of questions. As we move forward, we'll hear from some of those. Representative Johnson, I too represent families that have lost their child or family members. I want to ask the county judge from Kendall County, Judge Stolarczyk. Did y'all lose any lives in Kendall County?
Shane Stolarczyk, Kendall County.
Pardon
No,
me?
Shane Stolarczyk, Kendall County. No, ma'am, we lost 0 Kendall County residents.
I went through your testimony, and you gave a pretty good timeline of how y'all reacted. It seems like y'all were reacting very expeditiously. In part, I know that the flood was your downriver. Did you think that you had more warnings from Kerr County that it was coming your way, or did y'all react just on the warnings from NOAA and from other warning systems?
I would argue that we reacted on both based on our conversations and those warnings, but also based on history. We know there's generally about 6 to 8 hours of a lag between when floodwaters come from upstream by the time they hit Comfort. So we know there was a window built in, but it actually hit us a little faster than we anticipated.
Then I want to ask this. You gave some recommendations. I'd like to get that in writing as well. But some of the things that you did, you have no manufacturing housing in the floodplain. Is that correct? You do that? You all have asked for that to happen?
Correct. No permanent rental properties, but I believe you can keep them there for up to 90 days, like for park or to park and camp. But I'd have to recheck our rules for the exact specifications for that.
In your testimony, you had some bond issuance for $20 million of what y'all were doing with mitigation space, green space. If you could get that to us, I'd really appreciate that very much on the proactive things you did pre this disaster.
Correct. The bond initiative is a very unique one. We're a very conservative county, like 80% Republican, but that bond passed by 66%. And so our residents willingly raised taxes to go out so we could purchase large tracts of land to, in areas where we know there's risk for floods, where we want to preserve waterways, and also prevent certain kinds of development that could be problematic down the road. So it's our community is very invested in the well-being and welfare of our residents. So that was one of the very big accomplishments that we've done in the past couple of years.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Lieutenant Governor.
Yeah, I'll be brief. I say this with a heavy heart because none of us want to point fingers, but I was kind of in the middle of it on day one. And since day one, I've been to a number of the funerals. I went to the church and spoke to the families and gave the families my cell number a few days later and said, call me. I've gotten to know these people, and I think I have to make this point on behalf of them. Judge Kelly, I never saw you on day one. I came here from Austin. In this room, I talked to the sheriff multiple times, Sheriff. I talked to the mayor multiple times. We had a meeting when we got here. Governor Youngkin was here. I was here. The mayor was here. Everyone was here.
Then I wasn't. Then I wasn't.
And you were not. You were not. And I asked the question, where's the county judge? I have covered multiple emergencies in my 10 years as lieutenant governor. This is about as bad of a day as you can have, and I've had a lot of bad days. Because we didn't just lose people. We didn't know where people were. And you weren't here. I asked where you were for the press conference that night. You weren't here. Governor Youngkin and myself and the sheriff, you remember the sheriff, very laborious, I can't say the word, a lot of labor intensive, went down the list of every camp, of the 15 camps, to find out who was accountable and who was counted for. And the only camp, and you know this, Mayor, you were there with us, we went down that list and we found that every camp had accounted for everyone except Mystic. You weren't in that meeting. I don't know where you were on day one on July 4th, but you should have been here. You should have been here directing that response. That's your responsibility. And Charles Swartner asked you the question. I want to set the record straight. I'm not pointing a finger. I'm not blaming you. I just want to set the record straight. Everyone was here that day working their ass off, and you were nowhere to be found.